Okay, now we're ready for the next layer. These two just got finished with a yellow wash and cooking, and they're cooled off, so they're ready to go for the next layer. The next layer I'm going to do is going to be a red wash. This is the same layer, or the same color that I used for the red model, just as watery. So my tools for this particular episode is going to be 2 sponges, just like the last yellow wash. This is the paint, the Crimson number 1. So I've already have the mixed paint. I think I probably better mix some more because there are a fair few pieces and parts that have to be covered by it. I don't like running out and having to remix. I want them all to start with the same color. So again, I do not scrape it out. I just kind of slather my paintbrush in it and absorb some of the color onto the bristles and then mix it until there's no little chunkies in the paint. I don't want it too thick on this particular layer because I don't want it so thick that it starts to get cakey. We have a couple of layers in a little bit that will be a little thicker, but that's not until we get to the detail parts. Okay, so we're going to start with little Maya, again on the back of the head. I'm going to mix the paint, tip it up on the lid. I should probably do this so that you guys can see. And then dab from the top so the paintbrush or the sponge is not terribly sodden. And as it goes on, you can see that it just warms up and causes it to have a little bit of a paint cue. So I have 2 sponges, one that I'm going to put it on with and one that I'm going to dab it when it's done and then take off any excess puddling so that I don't have any red blotchy spots show up when it's trying to dry. You cannot cook this layer until it is completely cool. I'm sorry, not cool, dry. It has to be dry. And they call it flashing when the wet part dries off and you no longer see it so shiny. You can really see some of this coloring coming to life now. It's just really building up really beautifully. The veins underneath and the warmth on it. It's going to be a really beautiful little baby. All right. And try to get down inside of her ear, but with a sponge it's not terribly easy, so I'm going to come back with a paintbrush to smear it into there. Maya is one of my absolutely favorite Preemie kits. This was about the size of some of my kids when they were born, and it just warms my heart to see her so realistic and so curly and squishy and just so stinking cute. If I could buy 20 of this kit, I totally would. Alright, the first thing I'm going to do is take off extra paint from her lips. And then I'm going to go over her gently, starting with her face first. And then working my way out to the back of her head. You can see that it's taking off a little extra paint on the sponge. And again, you don't want to wipe or it will take it all back off. Alright, so I'm going to set her head, well actually no I'm not, I'm going to get a sponge or a paintbrush and I'm going to come back and I'm going to do her ears. That just helps smooth the paint into those deeper sections so that they're not completely blank and empty in there. I'll do up her nose and in her eye creases. Just making sure that there's no pooling in those spots because those are important. Alright, she's really cute. So now we'll move on to Caleb. So he's almost the same color as her now with that last warm wash. His vinyl is looking really close to what Maya did to start with. Caleb is not supposed to be a memory baby, so I'm not going to make it super preemie because it's just for a little kid for Christmas. So his layer is going to stop after this wash, and then he'll go on to details. So even though he's a preemie kit, I'm not going to make him completely preemie. He's just coming along for the ride because he's the same size, and he's on my list to do. So he will look like just a little miniaturized version of a newborn when he's done, rather than a super pink preemie. Such a sweet little face on this one too. I really like this kit. This is an oldie but a goodie, and I'm really thankful that it's an open stock kit so I can get it whenever I need it. It's very accurate for the size and look of a general 25 or 26 week preemie. Maybe even down to 22 or, well, maybe not 22, but 23, 24 week preemie. This little guy is only about 14 inches when he's done. And I modify his body because the typical one comes with him is a little bit, it makes him too big and bulky. And so I shrink it down to fit him a little better, to be more realistic, so he fits his clothing without looking like a little teeny weeny football player. This little one is going to be a girl when she's done, but the other two will be boys when they're done. Alright, now Little Promise is the palest kit that we're working with, so hopefully that last yellow wash will keep her on the same coloring now that we've got her caught up. This one is going to be preemie looking. This is one of the memory babies. This little baby represents a 23 or 24 week premature baby. It was sculpted with those measurements in mind. It also looks very, very authentic. Marita Winters is the artist behind this one, or the sculptor behind it. And this baby looks very realistic as far as what a preemie baby this size, the facial expressions and the developmental details. It's very realistic, and the size of the feet are exactly perfect. Alright, I'm going to do one hand and one foot, and then I'm going to turn off the videos. Oh, look. See, that's what happens when you touch it. See how it pooled right there? I have to come back in and smooth that out so it doesn't leave pooling marks. It's hard to not touch them when you're putting them down. Alright, so I'm going to do one hand and one foot, and then I'm going to do the rest off video so it doesn't take 10 years to finish while you guys watch. The hands and the feet have lots of those details that you have to really pay attention to, with the creases in between their toes and their fingers and their nail beds. They, for some reason, love to collect, as you can see, they love to collect the excess pooling of the liquid, and we don't want that to dry like that because then it'll look all gritty when it's done. So we're going to come back and start with the foot or the hand and then smooth it out, and then I'll come in with a paintbrush and do in between the toes. That is why my towel does not look clean. It's because I use it to wipe off the excess paint. This paint does not seem to come off, so this towel is clean, even though it looks terrible. It's washed after I use each set of babies, so I don't have any accidental smearings from one color to the next. It just does not come clean. So this paint does not like to come off unless you have some friction against it and you have hard scrubbing. So I'm going to stick this on my drying rack so that it's not being laying on the fabric to absorb any excess color. And then we'll come to one of the hands. Again, always start at your hand or your foot when you're doing your limbs, because it allows you to control the bounciness of your kit as it's being pounced. If I was holding up here and doing that, it would be just crazy bouncy. So by being able to hold it closer to where I'm working, it keeps me in control of what I'm doing. And again, you can see the pooling in the creases. You can leave it like that if you're okay with it, but I like to choose where I put my color, and so I don't want any of that color there unless I put it there on purpose. And sometimes you'll miss it. Sometimes I miss it as well. And you just have to make do. You can usually get some of that out if you use like a toothpick or a pin, like a sewing pin. It will help chisel out some of that extra stuff in the creases. But it's best to try not to let it get there to begin with. And move your way up the arm, doing one section at a time so it doesn't get too bouncy on you.